In this presentation, we will be looking into the history of Japan, specifically focusing in on the Edo period. Brought to you by Justin Fung and Thomas Rutledge. The Edo period is also known as the Tokugawa period, named after the ruling family at the time. It lasted from 1603 to 1868. During this period, Japan was under the rule of the Tokugawa shogunate. The shogun who started this all and influenced the Tokugawa period is named Tokugawa Ieyasu. Ieyasu was able to gain power of the entire nation of Japan. He did this by balancing the power of potentially hostile domains, which strategically placed allies in collateral houses. The resulting victories of a myriad of battles allowed Ieyasu to place feudal military lords and households controlling certain regions of Japan. It was through this system that the Tokugawa shogunate lasted for well over 250 years. In this time, the Edo period achieved internal peace, political stability, and great economic growth.
Bakuhan describes the political system of Edo period Japan. The term is a combination of the words Bakufu and Han. Bakufu is the feudal military government of Japan, also known as the shogunate. Under the shogunate are the daimyo, even though the shogun is himself a daimyo. They all have their own regions that they can tax independently and choose to rule independently, called Han. They are allowed this power because they swear an oath of fealty to the shogun, similar to medieval Europe. And they also have a portion of their families stay in Edo on the off years that they are not residing there, so the shogun has a greater influence over them. There were approximately 250 of these Han throughout Japan. To qualify for the title of a daimyo, a nobleman has to produce a minimum of 10,000 koku, which is the amount of rice it takes to feed a man for a year. These 10,000 koku add up to a wealth of at least 6,222,141 current US dollars for every daimyo. However, the wealthiest daimyo had around 1 million koku, while the shogun could have 2 to 3 times that, which shows the power the shogun had relative to his vassals. The vassals of the daimyo were men like samurai and other noblemen, who turned away from war as it was not existing in this period and to a more political lifestyle. Taxation differed from region to region, but was normally paid in rice or other crops until the end of the Edo period.
The social class of the Edo period was heavily guided under a strict hierarchy. Everyone knew their place in the class system and how much prestige they held within it. At the top, we have the emperor, who, unlike his name suggests, he does not actually have any power. In actuality, he merely acts as a political figurehead to the country. In no way does he have any control in what Japan does. Next in line on the hierarchy are the shogun and daimyo. Both the shogun and daimyo take their place in society through military power and possession of land. The shogun is a powerful military lord that have many daimyo who serve under him. The daimyos act as local lords of regions that were under control of the shogun. Below these ruling lords, the population was divided into 4 functioning classes. Samurai were among the top of these classes. They were loyal soldiers who served under the daimyos as bodyguards and enforcers. They consist about 5% of the population. Next is the peasant class. They consist of more than 80% of the population. Peasants live in rural areas under the control of the daimyo who watched over the land they lived on. They mainly worked as farmers and fishermen. The next classes in the hierarchy are artisans and then merchants. These group of people worked as traders and commercial businessmen, who circulated money throughout Japan. Social classes in this period were not based on personal merit, but rather inherited position. So the family you grow up in is most likely the class you'll be in during that time period.
To understand the events of the Edo period, one must first understand the events that came before it. For about 50 years, shoguns such as Nobunaga and Hideyoshi were slowly beginning to unify Japan. Their efforts would take fruit in 1600 when Ieyasu Tokugawa won the Battle of Sekigahara and established his unofficial reign. This reign would be made official when he was appointed shogun in 1603 and finally unified the whole of Japan. In 1639, pressure from European trading and the growing influence of Christianity in Japan caused the shogun to create a policy of isolation. This policy of isolation would end in 1853 when the United States of America sent Matthew Perry to threaten the Japanese to open their ports for trading. This ploy worked, and Japan was severely weakened as their economy was not ready for the competition that this would bring, resulting from its 200 years of isolation. Finally, outside pressures, mainly from the Western world, combined with inner turmoil over some daimyo's interest in a ruling emperor instead of a shogun, and famines and natural disasters finally caused the ruling, or rather the most powerful Han, to rebel and dispose of the shogun, ending not just the Tokugawa shogunate, but also the Edo period.
The Edo period held a successful run in terms of its economic standing. During this time, Japan saw a great deal of economic developments, including urbanization, increased exports of commodities, an expansion of domestic and foreign commerce, and a focus on agricultural production. While hesitant to deal with outsiders, Ieyasu did encourage trade relations with other countries, but after certain religious problems occurred, international trade slowed down considerably. Japan only contained a few ports, each handling specific commodities. Urban centers like Osaka and Kyoto helped in the growth of the economy. Here, the production of many items like silk, paper, and porcelain would make way for an increase in mercantile activity. Agriculture was the base of their economy. About 80% of people were rice farmers. The production of rice steadily increased, and this helped spark a greater demand for exchange of goods. All of these factors helped sustain a robust economy during the Edo period.